Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nitya Roundup, July 2021 edition. Uh, so, uh, we are there with another round, and we started this roundup in January 2020. And at that time, we had a bit apprehension that will there be legislative changes, judgments, etc., in indirect tax laws that every month we can run a roundup, but the government keeps on making changes in GST laws, foreign trade policy, etc. There are so many rulings still coming on GST, customs, etc. So we have never felt a dearth of content in this roundup. So today we'll be covering the recent changes in last 1 month, recent news, important rulings, and we'll close the session with a live Q&A round. Starting with the recent changes, the first one being the QR code, which is a very much talked about change. So the government has grant waiver of penalty for non-compliance of dynamic QR code for the period December 2020 to September 2021, as far as B2C supplies are concerned. Another important change which we noticed that many importers missed was the IEC details updation. So DGFT mandated importers, exporters to update IEC or acknowledge that there has been no amendment in IEC till June 30th of each year. Now this time limit stands extended to July 31st, 2021. And if the importers and exporters are able to make changes by then, no late fee needs to be charged. Coming to recent news, as far as GST concerned is concerned, the first news which came up was that, especially for, I'll say, tier two cities, etc., even the large companies are facing the issues that they have not updated the right geography in their ERPs. Meaning that, say, for example, the city of Ranchi, instead of Jharkhand, they have updated Bihar in their ERPs, which leads to payment of tax in Bihar GSTN instead of Jharkhand, and leading to disputes with the authorities, because the Jharkhand authorities in this example are asking for the tax, whereas uh, uh, Bihar has got the excess tax for which from which the taxpayer will be claiming the refund. The GST Council, on the eve of fourth anniversary, they announced that the latest agendas they have is that the reduction in multiple slabs, which we have, like from 0 to 28%, there are 5 slabs, and addressing inverted duty structure on many products. So this is on GST Council radar. So let's hope that the government addresses these things in upcoming meetings. Non-profiteering had been a contentious issue since introduction of GST. So NPPA has now urged that due to reduction in GST rates on COVID-related medicines, medical devices, etc., so they should check and ensure that the benefit of GST reduction has been passed on to customers or not. So this is likely to lead to another set of disputes or litigations on anti-profiteering. Coming to the custom side, in budget 2021, the government announced that they want to rationalize customs duty exemption on many products. So the government has announced that they will be scrapping customs duty exemption on 97 products. So this is a news which has come up. A formal notification, etc., is yet to be released. Uh, a very important news is that these export benefits for MEIS, SEIS, ROSL, ROSTC, SCTL have been temporarily put on hold due to some portal issues, etc. And thereafter, the DGFT clarified that it's a very, very temporary measure and they will open it soon. A positive news for service exporters is that the government has clarified that as far as SEIS scheme is concerned for 1920, the government will be soon clearing the areas or giving benefits to the service exporters. Another positive news is that the government has indicated that RODTP budgetary outlay will be raised, but the downside is this is still significantly short of the benefit which used to be available under MAIS scheme. Now, coming to the rulings, many important rulings have come up during last 1 month. So the first ruling being power of DGGSTI to issue summons. So as with each passing day in GST, the authorities are becoming more and more aggressive. So we see a lot of DGGSTI investigations amongst our clients. So in this case of Yasho Industries, a matter which was there before Gujarat High Court, there was an advance authorization holder who exported goods and he availed benefit of refund of GST paid on export goods plus IGST exemption under advance authorization, which is another dispute which exporter community are facing. DGGSTI issued summons under Section 70, which was challenged by the taxpayer. So Yasho Industries' contention was that they relied on Supreme Court ruling in case of Canon India, which held that DRI, in respect of customs, they do not have power to issue show cause notice. So on similar line, Yasho Industries also took plea before the High Court. So this is what the High Court held. The High Court held that notification 14 of 2017 duly appointed and assigned powers of central tax officers to DGGSTI. CBIC circular also granted specific powers to DGGSTI for carrying out various functions under CGST Act. There need not be any separate delegation of powers to DGGSTI. And on this basis, the High Court concluded that DGGSTI is empowered to issue summons under Section 70 of CGST Act. So, with due respect, in our view, this ruling is incorrect. And for the main reason that the Supreme Court, in case of Canon India, clearly held that the functions need to be specifically assigned to any officer. In that case, it was DRI. In this case, it is DGGSTI, which even after this notification circular, etc., which has been referred by the High Court, it has not been done. So in the absence of that, the DGSTI was not empowered to issue summons. And same thing applies for other activities also, like issuance of show cause notice, etc. But yes, this being we will say an inadvertent legislative miss, etc., the government is always empowered to correct such errors through retrospective amendments. You can also refer to our video, which is available on our YouTube channel, in which we have discussed in detail about the Canon India ruling. The second important ruling is on constitutional validity of GST levy on intermediary. So it's Dharmendra M. Jani, Bombay High Court ruling. In this case, the petitioner was providing intermediary services to an overseas customer. On plain reading of law, place of supply was in India and GST was payable. So the petitioner challenged the validity of these provisions itself. So when the matter before the High Court, both judges gave contrary opinion. So the favorable verdict was that Parliament has power to frame laws only on extraterritorial aspects. These laws should have some effect or impact or consequences within India. Article 245(2) does not empower Parliament to make laws which do not have any nexus with India. Extraterritorial effect given by Section 13, subsection 8, clause B of IGST Act has no connection or nexus with GST law. And this is contrary to fundamental principle of GST, which is a destination-based tax. On the other hand, the contrary verdict was that Article 245 is subject to Article 246A and 269A, and Section 13, subsection 8, clause B of IGST Act is not ultra vires Article 245. Article 286(2) clearly empowers Parliament to formulate principles to determine situs of supply. Section 13, subsection 8, clause B does not have any extraterritorial effect. And in the presence of specific provisions dealing with intermediary, general provision like location of recipient, etc., is not relevant. So, in our view, even though the High Court judges have given a contrary opinion and the matter is now before the Chief Justice to constitute a larger bench, etc. In our view, the levy on intermediary is valid because the primary contention that it does not have nexus with India is incorrect, because the intermediary itself is located in India, and many times the transactions relate to import or export of goods with India only. Another important ruling in case of services supplied to head office. So this is in case of Sutherland Mortgage Services. So for some of you, if you are tracking this ruling, so earlier the Advanced Ruling Authority held that they do not have jurisdiction to entertain this case because this issue relates to place of supply. The matter went before the High Court, and the High Court has sent the matter back to Advanced Ruling Authority that yes, they can entertain place of supply issues. So the facts were that there was an Indian branch office which entered into an intercompany agreement with the head office for providing services to overseas customers. So the question was taxability relating to that. So the Advanced Ruling Authority held that the head office and branch office constitute distinct persons under GST law. Based on the agreement, branch office provided services to head office only and not to the overseas customers. Head office paid consideration to branch office. This is that the condition for qualifying as export of service, that supplier and recipient should not be mere establishments of distinct person, this was not satisfied. Therefore, it's not an export of service and GST is leviable. So in our view, if we see this ruling from the perspective that conditions of export are not satisfied, in our view, the ruling is correct. But one thing which the ruling is incorrect, which changes the whole decision also, is whether there was a supply between head office and branch office at first place or not. Were branch office and head office were discharging their normal functions only? So in our view, there was no supply, and therefore the question of levying GST on this does not arise. And there are multiple rulings under pre-GST regime, even in GST regime, in respect of branch offices, liaison offices, etc., holding that GST is not applicable. The next ruling we have is GST on warranty supplies. So this is an advanced ruling in case of South Indian Federation of Fishermen Society. So in this case, the taxpayer was providing repair services along with supply of spare parts during warranty period. So the question raised before the authority was whether the parts and repair services provided during warranty period is separately taxable or not. So the authority held that supply of goods and services for warranty repairs replacement is incidental to original supply of goods. Value of original supplies included charges for supplies under warranty, therefore GST is not payable. So a very important and correct ruling stating that whenever a company is supplying parts or providing services within warranty period, no GST separately payable on it. And the authority also held that if such activities are separately charged and their value is shown separately, then GST will be paid. The next ruling is ITC on coal, which was used for electricity generation in township. So this is a Balco ruling of Chhattisgarh High Court. It's an interim order. So in this case, a taxpayer procured coal, which was used for generating electricity, where part of electricity was supplied to the township where employees were staying, and remaining part was used in the factory for manufacturing purposes. So the revenue sought to deny ITC to the extent electricity was consumed in township. So the taxpayer's contention was that factory cannot operate without township, and maintenance of township is in course of furtherance of business. Taxpayer also relied on definition of business under GST law, which includes activities incidental to business only also. So the High Court admitted the challenge and asked taxpayer to make a pre-deposit of 15% of demand. So in our view, even though it's an interim order, it's a very important issue, and the interim findings of the High Court are correct because, especially for far off areas where these cement plants or steel plants, etc., are located, it's very important for these companies to set up townships so that people can stay, etc. So these are expenses in course of furtherance of business only. Another important ruling is ITC reversal on inputs lost during manufacturing activity. So this is a ruling in case of ARS Steel and Alloy International, Madras High Court ruling. So in this case, a taxpayer was using MS scrap for its manufacturing activities and was making MS billets as a final product. So some quantity of inputs was lost during manufacturing. So the contention was that section 17(5), it says that ITC is not available on goods lost, stolen, or destroyed. So whether goods lost during manufacturing as a normal loss, as a normal process loss, etc., will be considered as lost or destroyed or not. So the High Court correctly held that the loss of goods which are covered under section 17(5) should be due to external factors or compulsions. Loss of goods during manufacturing process is inherent to process itself, and section 17(5) does not apply, and therefore ITC reversal is not needed. A very important and correct ruling, because if you see the plain wordings of section 17(5), it does not distinguish between the reasons of loss or reasons of destruction. So the High Court rightly held that inherent manufacturing losses will not be covered under this. Another important ruling, again, it's an interim order, which I assume most of you must be facing, is ITC denial due to mismatch between 3V and 2A. So again, this is in case of Bharat Aluminum Company, Chhattisgarh High Court, interim order. So in this case, the taxpayer purchased goods and paid tax to the seller, but seller did not deposit tax. So it was not coming in buyer's 2A, which was sought to be denied by the revenue. In this case, the revenue did not undertake any proceedings against supplier for the same. So the High Court gave interim findings that there need not be any reversal of ITC due to non-payment of tax by seller. So they relied on press release of May 2018. They also relied on Madras High Court ruling in case of DY Bethel Enterprises that revenue should firstly make recovery from seller. And they admitted the challenge subject to pre-deposit of 5% demand. So important and correct interim order. that the recovery should be first made from the seller only. But yes, one important point is neither in the B3 case nor in this case, the constitutional validity of this provision, which makes payment of tax by supplier as precondition to avail ITC, has been challenged. In our view, that's also that's a much stronger ground which taxpayers should take based on past jurisprudence. You can also refer to our video on YouTube channel on ITC of GST when tax not paid by supplier. Now, this GST and service tax on ocean freight again has been a contentious issue. So this is the Gujarat High Court ruling in case of Comsol Energy, where the taxpayer paid GST on ocean freight and then claimed refund. The important point was that the taxpayer filed the refund claim after 2 years from making deposit of GST. So the High Court held that Section 54 of CGST Act is only applicable for claiming refund of GST, which is paid under CGST Act. Once the GST on ocean freight has been held as constitutionally invalid, then whatever tax was collected by the government was without authority of law, basis Article 265. It is not a refund of tax under Section 54. The High Court applied Section 17(1) of Limitation Act and asked revenue to pay refund to the taxpayer along with interest. So in our view, this judgment is not correct for the reason that when the taxpayer paid the tax, so when they paid the amount, it was assessed as tax or only by the taxpayer in his returns, etc. So for claiming refund of the same, it will be governed by CGST Act, including Section 54. Therefore, this claim should have been held as time barred only. And there is contrary jurisprudence on this issue, including High Court rulings as well. So this is another case on identical issue. The only difference is that this is a Chennai tribunal ruling in case of Nilkamal, where the taxpayer paid tax on ocean freight for the period prior to GST. So this was a case of payment of service tax on ocean freight, and he claimed refund. So the tribunal held that even though this tax was paid prior to post introduction of GST, the revenue cannot deny this refund claim, particularly because taxpayer cannot claim its credit now. Taxpayer cannot become a victim of change in law. Refusal of refund is contrary to Article 265, and tribunal allowed the refund of service tax along with interest. So with this, we come to end of today's session, and thank you for joining in large number. Bye.